Hey everybody, how you doing today? Today is July 20th, 2018. It is 3:02 in the afternoon Central Time here. And I'm going to do like a mini podcast this afternoon here. Going to talk about 3 different news stories. 2 of them occurred yesterday. One of them was the capsizing of a boat in Branson, Missouri. The other one is the death of Denis Ten, a bronze medal figure skater from Kazakhstan. And we're also going to talk about a news story that just surfaced yesterday that happened back on July 7th. Now, on this channel, I talk about the language of Gematria. Excuse me. Gematria is the practice of coding numbers into words. And it's what the mainstream media uses to code its fake news propaganda. This whole idea of letters and numbers is supposed to be a secret from the lower classes, lower and middle classes. When you pay attention to this system, you realize that there's something very funky going on. And really, if you watch the news, you tend to think there's something funky going on anyway. When you look at the numbers behind the letters, you start to realize that there is something much more coordinated going on. And some people will argue that this stuff is happening naturally. I believe there is essentially a gang, a hidden hand, that's in control of the mainstream media and the police that are also reporting these stories. And that they, join forces, so to speak, to give us fake news stories. And it's a proven fact that reading or listening about bad news makes you depressed, makes you sad. And that's really the goal of all of this, is to keep the people divided, keep us in a restless state of mind, and keep us worried for our safety. Because people in fear tend to vibrate at a lower frequency. They tend to live more animalistically. They're better consumers. This is all proven. So I'm going to talk to you in this video about how these stories were constructed by the numbers. I do not believe that this incident in Missouri was an accident. I don't even really believe anybody died. Until someone can prove otherwise. And just look at the video here for yourself. Here we're looking at video of this supposed boat that sank, and I suppose it's possible this was the other Ducks boat that was out there, but if you look carefully, you don't really see anybody in there. You see the seats. You can absolutely see the seats in the interior, but you don't see really anybody moving around. Not to say there's no one in there. I do see like an arm or two, but I just don't see great evidence. And that's what we're always lacking, is actual evidence. They tell us this video is disturbing, but what's so disturbing about it? I mean, you don't even see anybody that ends up dying. Now, you may recall back in September of 2015, there was a Ducks bus crash in Seattle. Remember, a Ducks vehicle, this time it was on a bridge, whereas this recent incident, it capsized in a lake. These are amphibious vehicles. And yeah, this went down. 4 people were killed on September 24th, 2015. Now, if you're familiar with any of my work, you know that the number 13 is what we call the primary ritual code. And these 2 Ducks crashes happened 1,030 days apart, with the end date included. And, of course, this is making big headline news today. If you don't include the end date, then you have 1,030 days until today. Now, talking about Gematria, looking at the reduction method, the English reduction method is where each double-digit number is reduced to a single digit using the rules of numerology. And in this cipher, the word ducks equals 13. So, no, ducks does not equal 1,030, but in numerology, zeros are ignored. These are completely dropped from the result, leaving us with the number 13, just like the word ducks. So in numerology, it's also significant to flip the number, right? And think about how they said 31 people were on board. The initial death count was 11, and the number 31 is the 11th prime number. Then they raised the death toll to 13. Of course, this, again, 1,030 days after the last crash. Finally, the death toll is now at 17, and the word kill equals 17. The word sacrifice equals 170, which is representative of 17. Same as ritual sacrifice, 107. So this is a number you commonly see in killing rituals. Think about the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. We're told that 17 people were killed there as well. When they threw out the first pitch at a Marlins game, the Cubs and Marlins played 17 innings. Of course, that was all related to the Cubs World Series. But moving on, back to the number 31. They told us 31 people were on board. This language of letters and numbers is intertwined with dates on the calendar. So the other technique, aside from simple basic gematria that I use, is measuring between dates. And you see a lot of interesting things here. So when you look at Missouri, the location of this incident, and look at their date of statehood. So August 10th, 1821. What was something was 821. Give me a moment, guys. I want to see what it was. Oh, look at that. Ride the Ducks Branson in Jewish Gematria. So Missouri was founded in the year 1821 as a state, and Ride the Ducks Branson equals 821. And that's the company that's involved in this incident. We'll also talk about this 303. So if you measure to the date of statehood from Missouri, from the date of the incident, 7/19/2018 to August 10th, you get 3 weeks and 1 day. 3-1. 31 people on board. But that's not all. The date that this occurred, July 19th, internationally, in most parts of the world, they actually write this date 19/7. And 197 is the gematria, Ride the Ducks. Ride the Ducks using the reverse alphabetic order, where Z equals 1, Y equals 2, X gets 3, all the way through A is 26. Ride the Ducks equals 197, like the date of the accident, 19/7. This 197 is also connected to the number 13 that we've been talking about. 197 is the 45th prime number. These prime number relations are of utmost significance to this study. When you write out the number 13, it sums to 45 in reduction and 45 in the reverse reduction method. You get a double connection to 45. So the number 13, so significant to this ritual, just like the gematria of the word ducks. So another cipher that I teach on this channel is called Jewish Gematria. We're not even going to really look at English extended. So Jewish Gematria is also known as Latin, and this is based on the original Latin alphabetic order. Notice the more modern English characters are placed at the end. J, V, and W not appearing in ancient Latin. Granted, the letter V was in Latin, but then they changed it to a vowel. To a consonant from a vowel. Anyway, in this cipher, also super significant, ducks equals 307. Now think about the date of this accident, July 19th, 2018. It had a life lesson number, this is what we call it, of 37. It's where you add the date to the month and then the digits of the year individually. So 7 plus 19 plus 2 plus 1 plus 8 equals 37. The governor of Missouri, we're going to talk about how his numerology ties into this as well. He was born September 17th of 1955, which gives him a reduced birth numerology of 37. So ducks equals 307, crashes on a date with 37 numerology. They call these duck boats. Interesting that duck boat also equals 370. And this crash occurred on Table Rock Lake, which equals 307, which is the same as ducks. All on a date with 37 numerology. So we're talking about how the number 13 is significant to this ritual, 1,030 days between ducks crashes. Well, the 13th prime number is 41. 41, the 13th prime number. Ride the Ducks was founded in 1977. And think about how the word ducks equals 77 in reverse. Duck boat equals 77 using the standard alphabetic order. So the company is 41 years old. The 13th prime, 41. The date of the last incident to have occurred with the Ducks, again, September 24th, 2015, this had a date with numerology of 41 with the life lesson number. Now, if you take every number 1 through 41 and add them together, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way through 41, you get the number 861. 861, the 41st triangular number. So the number 41 has some kind of specialty with Branson, Missouri. So we're talking about the number 41. 41. 41 has a prime number relationship of 179. You'll see here, 179, the 41st prime number. Again, let's talk about Mike Parson, the governor. Of course, he's got that middle name, El. They worship El, the Hebrew god for Saturn. Anyway, look at his birthday of September 17th, 1955. So we were talking about how last night's date was written 19/7 internationally. This date is written 17/9. And again, 179, the 41st prime number. So as I expose on this channel commonly, these people who are selected, not elected, to sit in office presiding over these events are also done by the numbers. You have to be sworn to oath to take these offices, and this man, no doubt, part of the gang. Another thing I wanted to mention before I talk more about the governor is, we had all these 37 connections. These vehicles are amphibious. Amphibious equals 157, the 37th prime number. As far as this 157, notice when USA Today updated its article, 1:57 p.m., they tend to do this with the times, too. They'll code the headlines. They'll update them at a certain time. And they give us a 670 right here in the headline, as you can see. And 670 is a lot like 67, which is something they always stamp into death rituals, blood sacrifice and human sacrifice, both summing to 67. Of course, you also have the 130. A little bit more on this governor. He was born on a date with 100 numerology. Branson, Missouri equals 100 in the reverse reduction method. Also note the 199 in reverse. That's the 46th prime number. The governor's birthday also had 46 numerology. In ordinal, Branson, Missouri equals 206. He was born the 260th day of the year. And to top it off, look at how Branson sums to 83 and 29. The last name Parson, same thing. Both ciphers. So, what do you think? I mean, this guy took office just last month. 1 month, 19 days ago. And just now, this is happening under his watch. Seems to be planned, doesn't it? And not only is it 1 month, 19 days after he took office, but it's also 11 months, 9 days since Missouri celebrated its last anniversary of statehood. So this 119 sequence, this is, of course, connected to the number 911. And 911 is connected to 33. You see 911 is the 156th prime number. When you write out 33, it sums to 156. And in this case, We're talking about Branson, which sums to 303. 303 Branson. Ride the Ducks Branson equals 303. And this number being a stamp of Masonic activity. The word masonry equals 33. They tell us the 33rd degree is the highest of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So I hope that's more than enough evidence than you need to know that something fishy is going on with these news stories. You know, you have the video in which it barely even looks like anybody is struggling inside the bus. You don't see anybody in there, and then you have the numbers on top of it as well. All right, so moving on to the next story here. We're going to talk about figure skater Denis Ten. We're told he was stabbed to death during an attempted robbery. So let's see what's going on here. First of all, it's kind of interesting. Duck equals 39. We had the duck boat accident the same day that Denis Ten died. 10 equals 39 ordinal. So this guy was a celebrity in his nation anyway. He gave the first ever figure skating gold medal to the nation of Kazakhstan. When you write out his name, Denis Ten, using English reduction, his name sums to 36. And if you measure from his last birth date to the date of his death, it was exactly 36 days. This is the type of alignment you commonly see. And I also want to point out it was a span of 306 days after the governor of Missouri's birthday during the boat crash. So just earlier I talked about how the date July 19th is connected to the number 13. 13 equals 45 forwards and backwards. And the 45th prime is 197, like the 19th of July. So isn't it interesting that 13 equals 45 in forwards and reverse reduction using the single reduction method? 13 summing to 45 and 45. Well, the name Denis Ten in both single and reverse reduction also sums to 45 and 45. The date that he accomplished the greatest feat of his life, which was winning the bronze medal in the Olympics back in Sochi 2014, that happened on Valentine's Day, February 14th, which is the 45th day of the year. And think about this year. We had the Parkland shooting on Valentine's Day. And then we had the YouTube shooting. YouTube was founded on Valentine's Day back in 2005. So something interesting about the number 10. You know, his name is a number. And here on this channel, I talk about numbers. So, of course, there's going to be a connection with the number 10 to the date that he died. The number 10 has this special connection to the number 55. And to begin with, the digits, 5 plus 5, sum to 10. But if you take every number 1 through 10 and add them together, 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way through 10, it sums to 55. So 55 is the 10th triangular number. There's also the Fibonacci sequence, which begins 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. And what that sequence does is add the previous number to the most recent number in the sequence, and you add them together. So the thing goes up exponentially. And in that method, again, the Fibonacci sequence, it goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and then 55. And if you add up the digits of his date, the date that he died, 7 plus 1 plus 9 plus 20 plus 18, it sums to 55. And in single reduction, the word sacrifice sums to 55. This is where the S exception, S worth 10. So now moving on to the number 47. 47 has been really significant recently. We had France winning the World Cup exactly 47 weeks after the Great American Total Eclipse. Total Eclipse 47, France 47. You had the Trump, which sums to 470. He was meeting with the leader of Russia, 470. Well, Denis Ten died exactly 47 weeks before his next birthday. Recently, I also talked about Annabelle Nielsen, who was a former Rothschild. She was married to Nathaniel, and she died on his 47th birthday. And this is because the word killing sums to 47, with master number reduction exceptions. The phrase ritual human sacrifice equals 211, which is the 47th prime number. And in the prime number cipher, which is basically English ordinal but with associated prime numbers instead, the word killing equals 211. Again, the 47th prime number. So 47, a number significantly stamped into killing rituals. Now, earlier I kind of hinted you in on the English extended cipher. This is similar to Jewish. It's a very large number cipher, but it's based on the present alphabetic order. And isn't it interesting, when you type out 47, you get 1616 in this cipher? And if you measure from the date he won his gold medal to the date he died, it was exactly 1,616 days. Just like the Gematria of 47, the number of weeks he died before his birthday. Now, as I commonly talk about too, this crucifixion code that's in place seems to be significant as far as the numerology of death and murder rituals. And of course, this code of letters and numbers rooted in the Bible, the New Testament has the story of Jesus who was crucified under a solar eclipse. And in Gematria, crucifixion of Jesus Christ equals 303. Jesus was crucified at age 33, right? And think about this in relation to the story that I just covered. That story came out of Branson, which was 303. Ride the Ducks, Branson 303 reverse. It's a number they always stamp into these things. So, the crucifixion of Jesus, again, that's where this all stems from. Now, in Gematria, Jesus Christ equals 151, and Denis Ten died 151 days before Kazakhstan celebrates its independence. Furthermore, the phrase crucifixion of Jesus sums to 226. Jesus was a sacrifice, which sums to 226. Now, also think about how Denis Ten was born in the year 93, and 93 is a very significant number to Christianity. And just this past weekend on my podcast, I talked about the death of a guy named Jesus Christ All in the year 93. He was born on a date with 93 numerology and died on a date with 93 numerology. Now, in Hebrew, which, you can verify Hebrew Gematria on my website as well. If you go to ciphers and foreign, you can also see Hebrew and Greek. Now, in Hebrew Gematria, Jesus equals 316. And, think about the Bible. John 3:16 is often said to be the most popular Bible verse, which is about sending Jesus to save humanity from its sins. So, Denis Ten, he was born June 13th, 1993. Which means on the date of his death, he was exactly 301 months and 6 days old. Just like the Gematria of Jesus Christ. How interesting is that? The name Christ in Jewish Gematria sums to 290. Jesus crucified under a solar eclipse sacrifice equals 290. And if you measure from his death to the second Great American Total Solar Eclipse, it was exactly 2,090 days. Something else that's interesting here, earlier I talked about this 821 number. Ride the Ducks Branson equals 821. Well, 821 is a prime number. It's the 142nd prime number. And think about how we just looked at the Gematria of eclipse sacrifice, 142. In something called Francis Bacon Gematria, the name Denis Ten equals 142. And this is a cipher also built on the alphabetic order. It's just you add 26 for every capital letter. All right. So the number 13 is connected to sacrifice for a number of reasons. Got a crick in my throat today, guys. So check this out. Ritual human sacrifice in English reduction, with the S exception, this sums to 103, a lot like the number 13. When you write out 13, it sums to 347. In Jewish Gematria, the word for sacrifice equals 347. 347 is the 69th prime number. Eclipse equals 69. And then finally, the phrase human sacrifice equals 130. So this number 13 is significant to these rituals. So the number 10, when spelled out, equals 13 in septenary Gematria. And this isn't a cipher I use too often, but there is this significant connection to the number 13 here. So seeing as we're cracking open some other ciphers, looking at square numbers, where every number is multiplied by itself before adding it to the equation, Denis Ten equals 1300. He was born in Almaty, or I don't know how to pronounce it, Kazakhstan. And in Jewish Gematria, you get the number 1313. His full name was Denis Yuryevich Ten. And his name sums to 91 reduced, which is the 13th triangular number. And his name sums to 233 in the reverse order, which is the 13th Fibonacci number. And then think about his birthday, June 13th. He was born on the 13th day of the month. And 13 is the 6th prime number. He was born in the 6th month. And then if you crack open these Kabbalah ciphers, you find that his name sums to the same as his birthday, 136, in both Kabbalah methods. So the 13th prime number is 41. He was born on a date with a life lesson number of 41. Interesting, too, that this 31 was another number I mentioned. We talked about how there were 31 people on that duck boat. Figure skater Denis Ten equals 310. He was born in Kazakhstan, which sums to 31, on a date with 31 numerology. And he was 301 months old. So the date, again, yesterday had a life lesson number 37. 37, by the way, is the ordinal gematria of Jesus in Hebrew. I don't know if that's significant in this case, but There's one other form of gematria that's pretty significant called satanic gematria. And in this method, his name sums to 370, dying a span of 37 days after his birthday on a date with 37 numerology. So if this man is really dead, he was absolutely offed by the numbers. You know, it's all part of ritual. This gang is operating worldwide. Okay, we got one more news story, and I'm just going to jump in the chat here and see what's going on. All right, we're going to look at one more news story. The chat's hopping pretty nicely today. Thanks, guys, for watching live. For those of you watching, too, I just want to let you all know that there's another platform that I'm going to start putting my videos on. So in the event that my YouTube channel gets deleted again, you can go to real.video. And this is a site that just launched. It's basically a platform for free speech. And it's for people who are interested in liberty and who want to fight the New World Order. Because, you know, news about this propaganda machine, it's out. So this place is trying to build a platform where, you know, it's free of discrimination, but at the same time, they let people speak their mind about the deep state and what's really happening in the world. So I'll put a link to this video in the chat, or tell you what, let me let's go to my channel here. Well, I'm going to have to find the link to my own channel. I got to figure this out yet, but I do have one video on there now. So, again, if this channel ever gets deleted, I'll be on there as well. All right, so here's the news story I wanted to talk about to end this, because, again, we're talking about how all of this stuff is orchestrated by the numbers, all this fake news. And even stories like this appear to be fake. So we're being told that this New Jersey woman murdered her mom and her grandma and then took their money and went on a shopping spree in New York City. And this is pretty absurd, right? And not only is it just, it's not even a crazy looking woman. Like, it's a really attractive looking 42-year-old woman. And they're telling us that she murdered her family, her whole matriarchy, and then went in on a shopping spree in New York. And like, the idea of it is laughable. Like, it probably just doesn't happen in real life. I guess it could. You know, what do I know? But let's talk about the numbers here and why I think this is very suspicious. So first of all, the number 42. We see this right in the headline. That's the age of this woman. Now, if you're familiar with this work, you might understand now that 42 is commonly used in racial coding. But really, it just seems to be a number of hate, because this is stamped on women as well. In the alphabetic order, the word female sums to 42. The word lady also equals 42. And then the derogatory word for women, the word bitch, equals 42. So how appropriate, 42 years old. If you take this entire headline and drop it into the calculator, you find in reverse reduction, look at that, it sums to 402. What do you know? So, oh, I knew it. They use the term bludgeoned in this article. And, you know, really she bludgeoned her mom and her grandmom to death with a nightstick? This woman here, is that violent? I don't know, guys, but I was like, man, the word bludgeoned, something is up here. Well, sure enough, it sums to 181, which is the 42nd prime number. How convenient. And by the way, they're telling us this story comes out of New York City. NYC equals 42. All of this using the standard alphabetic order. So we get challenged to use one cipher a lot, and here you have an example. But we're going to stretch this out. So the other number that we often see coded, and I brought this up in my video about Pussy Riot storming the field during the World Cup. The word female also equals 67 in Jewish gematria. And 67 is the 19th prime number. It was the 19th Amendment passed in 1919 that gave women the right to vote here in the United States. So female equals 67. And look at the age of the first victim they list. 67-year-old Michelle Gordon. And look at the gematria of Michelle Gordon. It sums to 67 in reverse reduction. This shit's a joke. 67, again, that's the number of blood sacrifice coded into these stories about death. And then the other one is 81 years old. The word ritual equals 81 forwards and backwards. But never mind that. This is what you're really going to get a kick out of. The July 7th murders, this didn't hit the news until yesterday, I don't think, but the murders actually occurred on the date July 7th. And look at this 42-year-old woman's name. It's Heather Barbera. Heather Barbera. H. Barbera. Does that remind you of anything? Well, if you grew up in the 90s like I did, you may remember Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I think they still air them all the time, but that's the first place my head went was Hanna-Barbera. So look at this, July 7th murders. Look up Hanna-Barbera on Wikipedia and look at what date they were founded, July 7th. The same date on the calendar. So I was wondering if maybe it measured up to the date, but no, it was the same date. And it's pretty clear what they're doing here. So you add these numbers up of the ages of all these people. You get 42. Let's make sure the number calculation's on here. You get 42, 67, and 81. And notice how this sums to 190. And remember, in this Jewish cipher, here, this is where the word female sums to 67. Female 67, the 19th prime. And their ages summing to 190, like the number 19. Now, if you reduce the Jewish cipher to a single digit, just like you do with the English reduction method using the rules of numerology, type in their names, Heather Barbera, Michelle Gordon, and who's the other one? Elaine Rosen. Look at this, you get 190, just like their ages. What a joke. And yes, this is Jewish reduction. It's a cipher I almost never use. I mean, a handful of times I've mentioned this cipher, right? But think about it. This is the cipher in which female equals the 19th prime number is the Jewish method. All right, so as far as the date 7/7, which I forgot to mention because I wasn't looking at my post, Hanna-Barbera also equals 77 in reverse reduction. The first victim had 7 gematria. And not only does Michelle Gordon equal 67, but she also equals 331, the 67th prime number. Intentional coding at its finest, people. This story didn't really happen. And recently we've been bludgeoned by the Me Too movement. Speaking of the word bludgeoning, right? Aren't you getting tired of being bludgeoned by stories about Me Too? I told my friends I was going to joke and create a hashtag called Me3, and they were like, yeah, that's not going to go over well. And they're right. So Michelle Gordon equals 67. Even the name of the killer, Heather Barbera, yet another 67 in reduction. And while we're adding the gematrias here, check this out. Michelle Gordon and Elaine Rosen equals 676. So we know about the 67. Blood sacrifice equals 76 in single reduction. That's 67-76 combo. You see those coded together a lot. Now this phrase blood sacrifice in the reverse order also sums to 257. Look at this. Same numbers, 257 of the victims. I mean, how obvious could it be? But there's more, because there's always more. Blood sacrifice also, 86, reverse reduction. Heather Barbera, 86, reverse reduction. Add up the names of the victims, you get 806, English extended. Also notice the 130 in reverse reduction. Remember, human sacrifice, 130. I mean, I know this is a lot of numbers, but I don't really think it is. I mean, we're talking about 67, 13, 19 over and over again. Now, there's one quote in this article. It's just this. I mean, it's a really short article. They barely tell you anything. But there's this one quote. It's Barbera's uncle. And it's a really, really stupid quote. Think about this quote. They were both on the floor. There was blood all over. I was hoping they were alive even though they were dead. Just a stupid quote, right? Well, what I want to point out about this is that this is just a hint at Freemasonry. Masonry is running the news outlets and giving us our fake news propaganda. This phrase in the alphabetic order equals 1041. The term masonry equals 1041. In the reverse order, it sums to 1308. That's a lot like the number 138, and Freemasonry equals the 138th prime number in Jewish Gematria, 787. But that wasn't the full quote, right? You can also say it was horrible and put this at the front of it. And now look at this. You get 1200 and 1500. This story coming out of NYC, 12 and 15 in reduction, seems planned to me. Well, I think that's going to do it, guys. If you saw this work for the first time, I hope your mind is sufficiently blown because, this is what's really going on. I've been doing this, making videos at least for like a year and a half now. I've been running this blog for about 7-8 months and really picking apart every major news story. It's all by this code. We're being lied to on a scale that most people can't even initially comprehend, which is why I think this knowledge is so slow to pick up speed because it's just so much. But, once again, that'll do it, guys. And, good luck winning the lottery. The lottery's rigged. A lot of the jackpots go to people who are coded by the numbers. So really, you're wasting your time looking for those jackpots. But if you want to win 10 or 20 bucks here, good luck for you. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Keep seeking and speaking that truth. See ya.